What's something you want people to know about Scotland?
Internationally, it annoys me when people in Scotland are referred to as British. Like, a lot of Scots are even referred to abroad as English, which is even more insulting.
I would say Scotland is so much more than the independence referendum, and it's so much more than being a part of the Union. My name is Annie Ferguson. I'm currently 25 years old and I would vote no on the independence referendum.
Smisha Ian MacAdamic, Hammy Fichta Tree Bliana Gush. Should there be another Scottish independence referendum, my vote will be a resounding yes in favour of it.
Welcome to Scotland. With its castles, lochs and moody skies, travelling across it can often feel like stepping straight into a fairy tale. And much like the pages of an old book, the country is filled with rivalries, symbols and epic struggles for identity. Perched at the northernmost edge of the British Isles, Scotland's history has been largely forged by its relationship to its southern neighbour, England. Throughout centuries of treaties, uprisings and political debates, the same question has endured: union with England or independence from it?
Scotland's future must be in Scotland's hands.
Over the past decade, one event has reshaped the debate: the UK's exit from the European Union in 2016, something Scotland voted decisively against. It gave new momentum to the independence movement. After a defeat in the 2024 UK general election, Scotland's main pro-independence party, the SNP, is once again leading in the polls. And with a Scottish parliamentary election approaching, the question of independence is back at the centre of their campaign. After all, for many Scots, which side of the debate they fall on is a defining feature of their very identity.
What it means to be Scottish? I would always say first and foremost that I'm a Scianach, is what we call it in Skye. I'm a Skye man. And then a Gael, second of all, and then a Scot, then European, and then probably British at the...
Reluctantly.
Yeah, reluctantly British. My family are very strong independence supporters, so I've essentially had it drilled into me from when I was pretty young. And obviously when I started to have more of a mind of my own, I started to see how beneficial this could be to Scotland as a whole.
It's so much more than like a traditional political debate. It's your identity, your values, your culture, it's your way of being. I grew up in a household where they identified as British, not Scottish. I'm British, Scottish, European.
In recent history, never was a divide between the two sides of this debate made more apparent than in 2014, at the time of the only ever Scottish independence referendum.
Yes, 2.5 hours to go until the polls close in Scotland. The question on the ballot: should Scotland be an independent country?
Back then, the country chose to remain in the United Kingdom, with 55% of Scots voting no to independence.
Scotland has voted no. The result in Fife has taken the no campaign over the line, and the official result is a no.
I just remember, even at the age of 12, it's weird being so engaged with it, but I just remember the absolute crushing disappointment of the 19th of September, waking up and seeing what had happened, and it hadn't gone our way.
The school environment in my community, it was very, very much pro-independence. My brother was eligible to vote at the time, and he was the only one out of his friends that chose to remain within the Union. My family had members who fought in the World Wars, and that really sort of solidified their Britishness. My mother is traditionally conservative, pro-monarch, pro-unionist, vehemently against an independent Scotland. She doesn't agree with Scotland having its own government, for example.
What Annie is referring to here is a system of governance known as devolution. Back in 1707, Scotland and England signed the Acts of Union, creating the Kingdom of Great Britain and a single unified parliament in London. Nearly 3 centuries later, in 1997, Scottish citizens voted to restore Scotland's parliament. Today, that devolved parliament controls key areas like healthcare, education, and policing. But crucial matters like foreign policy, defence, and immigration remain in the hands of the UK Parliament, where Scottish MPs hold 57 of the 650 seats. For some, the current system is still not good enough.
I'm a boat trip skipper for tour boats in Portree.
The Isle of Skye in the Scottish Highlands is one of the most sparsely populated areas in the UK. The human population on the island is around 12,000. The sheep population, about 10 times as high.
So we're heading up to the Isle of Rona today, and Rona is actually a privately owned island. There's one person that lives out in Rona full-time, year-round, which is gets quite lonely, I would say.
Up here in Skye, the centralised government in London feels particularly distant.
It's one of the busiest tourist destinations in Scotland. We see almost nothing back in return for the revenue we raise. We have very poor infrastructure. The only way I see this happening, the only way I see improvements in local governments being made is through independence, because currently the devolved government just cannot sustain or support the adequate funding that's required.
Like Ian, Annie also wishes things could be different for her community.
I'm from North Ayrshire at the west coast of Scotland. I'm a first generation uni student, so it means so much to my family that I'm actually in university. My school was very disadvantaged, and a very low percentage of people from my school enter a higher university. Just based on where you're from, you're already at such a disadvantage in terms of employment, in terms of health, in terms of opportunities.
Unlike Ian, however, Annie doesn't think independence is the solution.
I'm very much, I would say, the outlier, the minority, if you look at youth and how they would vote. I don't believe that becoming an independent nation would be the answer to all of our problems. I think that is such a misconception. Yes, there are drawbacks to being a part of the union, but right now, in the state of the world, the advantages outweigh the negatives, and the logistics and the capacity that Scotland has to govern and govern effectively isn't quite there yet for me.
Some of the main concerns of those who oppose independence are naturally economic. From oil and gas to fishing, manufacturing, and of course whiskey production, Scotland has a diversified economy that generates over €100 billion in exports annually. The UK, however, remains by far Scotland's main trading partner, with 60% of Scottish exports destined for it. EU countries account for only about 18% of Scotland's exports.
I always have rejected this argument that Scotland couldn't stand on its own. It might take some time to really reap the benefits of it, but I see absolutely no reason why we couldn't.
Of course, for Ian and many other Scottish people, the desire for independence, or the opposition to it, extends far beyond mere economic considerations, to matters that may be less concrete, but are just as powerful. Things like culture, values, in some cases religion, and language.
I grew up in a Gaelic-speaking family, running all the way back to my grandparents. When we were very young, we all spoke Gaelic pretty much exclusively in the house, and then obviously the older we got, we spoke a bit more English in the house as well. So it's still, even nowadays, about 50-50 balance. For Gaelic speakers, I would say that we've been a very oppressed group of people in Scotland for quite a long time, even more so across the UK.
Scottish Gaelic is a Celtic language that for centuries was among the most widely spoken in Scotland, particularly in the Highlands. Then, starting in the mid-18th century, Britain began introducing laws to weaken Highland culture in an attempt to quell independentist rebellions in the region. Among the laws were bans on Highland traditions like clan tartans and bagpipe music, and in 1872 Gaelic was banned from being taught in schools. By the end of the 19th century, it had largely been replaced by English in most of Scotland. Nowadays, only about 1% of Scots speak Gaelic. Most are in the Outer Hebrides and the Isle of Skye, where about a third of the population speaks the language.
And there's certain ignorance and almost stigma attached to being a Gaelic speaker. You see comments on social media and they're very much like, oh, it's a dead language, why are we giving money to something that no one speaks? But it's not true. I mean, if people come here, you can regularly go to the shops, go to the pub, and you'll have people speaking Gaelic to each other. And this kind of attitude and persecution is definitely a major reason of why we feel very strongly about independence. So I've been a Gaelic singer from pretty much knee height. My father is a Gaelic singer, and my brother and my sister are both Gaelic singers. So we've been always very involved in Scottish traditional music and in Gaelic singing.
And can we hear some of it?
You knew we were going to ask.
Yeah, I was waiting for that. So this song is called Faceți, Dunyilan Skianach, Welcome to the Isle of Skye. So I'll sing you a wee verse of it. O Faceți dostuchgen, da chodachen utli, da viaun den en
Suvor faren shulochem yaun, a tucham nan
Ban gurlar en glaun.
Oh, that was so beautiful.
It costs so little to put Gaelic on a road sign, or Gaelic on an ambulance, or Gaelic on a police car. People make an argument that it puts them off the road when they see signs in Gaelic and in English.
From bilingual road signs to the waving of the saltire or the Union Jack, so many things in Scotland can be imbued with political significance, interpreted as signifiers of a unionist or separatist identity. Perhaps nothing more so, however, than the colours one wears when Glasgow's infamous football derby comes around. Irish green for Celtic, royal blue for Rangers.
So Rangers and Celtic are two football clubs, but for the people of Scotland they're much, much more than that. They are your identity, they are your values, they are your beliefs. When you go to Rangers, they are traditionally more pro-unionism, pro-monarchy. And then on the other hand, you've got Celtic, pro-independence and anti-monarchy. On match days, for example, you would be advised not to walk down certain streets wearing certain colours. Obviously, if you were to go to a pub, you wouldn't have the pubs typically intermingling. You would go to a Rangers pub or you would go to a Celtic pub, and it would be distinct. When you've got these two teams, it doesn't just mean who do you support in terms of who do you support today for the game, Rangers and Celtic. Who do you support can then often mean who do you vote for? What identity do you have? What beliefs do you have? Are you pro or anti-unionism? Old Firms, as they're called, are some of the most rambunctious, famous days in Scotland.
Fuck yous. But if you want to drink after it, as long as we win. Well, maybe no welcome in this street, but
no, this street.
At some point,
Maybe like 5 streets away.
When the pub's shut, maybe down the road somewhere, we could get a drink.
Like these two, some young fans seem to be bridging across Scotland's football divide. In fact, you might end up finding some Rangers supporters where you least expect them.
I support Rangers.
You do?
Which is kind of at odds with the whole
Very
political...
That's so surprising.
I support Rangers.
Okay.
Just not the politics. My family are all Celtic fans, which makes it even stranger. I try not to associate football too much with politics. Hard to get away from in Scotland.
My full family are very, very staunch Rangers supporters, and I feel like I never really fell into that bracket.
Annie doesn't fall into the same bracket as her parents in many ways. Crucially, she isn't a fan of the British monarchy.
So this is a letter from the Queen from when she was alive, and I wrote to her because I'd done a lot of fundraising when I was younger. So this was on my bedroom wall for at least 4 years. So obviously at one point I valued these enough to put them on my wall. As I sort of started educating myself on the monarchy, I am against the monarchy. I totally disagree with what it means and how it came into power and how they've retained power. So that's what these letters ended up representing to me, was the development of my own beliefs in a way. I then decided to take them down, where they've remained in a box in my attic ever since.
Another very important topic that Annie and her parents disagree on is the European Union. At the time of the Brexit referendum, both her mom and her dad voted leave.
Well, I was 15 when it happened, and we felt such a sense of loss. This is where I did really relate with my youth, because we were like devastated as a whole to leave the European Union. We understood that this could actually have really bad ramifications for Scotland, and unfortunately it did. All of that sort of disintegrated before our eyes, and it's never been replaced. There's a gaping hole at the heart of where the European Union should be within Scotland, and I felt a sense of sadness that my mother and father felt like that was the correct decision.
Scotland voted overwhelmingly to remain in the EU. Every single council area in Scotland voted to remain in the EU. So essentially we got taken out of the EU entirely against our will because of what other countries wanted to do, and that just seems grossly unfair. I mean, one of the pledges of the No campaign at the time of the Scottish independence referendum was that by voting no we were ensuring our European Union membership, and then 2 years later that membership was removed.
Many people in Scotland share Ian's feelings. While for decades No to Independence polled consistently 30 to 40 percentage points higher than Yes, pro-independence sentiments increased substantially at the time of the 2016 Brexit referendum, and eventually surpassed the 50% benchmark in 2020, when Brexit was definitively implemented. Since then, Yes and No have remained neck and neck, with the country split down the middle. The most recent polls from February of 2026 suggest that 51% of Scotland is in favour of independence and 49% against it. Among 16 to 24-year-olds, support rises to 59%.
I would 100% be keen to leave the Union if it meant rejoining the European Union, no questions asked. But again, you need to be pragmatic and realistic, and what currency would we have? What borders would we have with England? I mean, how could we legitimise leaving the stability that the Union provides us for no guarantees that we would be involved within the EU? We couldn't have this glorious Scotland and the Scotland that we pride ourselves on if we left the UK.